So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Autonomous. The universe is going autonomous. Everything is autonomous on the ground, in the air, in space, you name it. And we'll talk about what's happening, what's going to happen, the technologies, and obviously the risks involved. First, a few words from the chairwoman of this segment here, Brigadier General Sharon Nir, former commander of the IDF National School of Communication and Cyber Defense, and former advisor to the Chief of Staff. Okay, Sharon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Yaakov. Autonomous system and the urban sphere. The predicted transition to autonomous system will inevitably result in an improvement in the citizens' lifestyle in various aspects, such as reducing traffic jams, improving accessibility, optimizing time, increasing labor productively, reducing stress, reducing accidents, and more. Smart transportations have the potential to change the urban space beyond recognition. The way in which people and goods will move or hover in space will change the urban features and affect the street structures, land uses, parking areas, and building lines. In practice, it will dictate to all of us an autonomous urban space that we are not familiar with. It is enough to learn from the dramatic effects of applications such as Get Taxi or Uber and the like, and understands what the autonomous space entails. It is evident that technological change is happening fast and even very fast, but success means characterizing and planning businesses' processes and focusing on regulation aspects that will inevitably affect traffic patterns. A good example of this is a decision in advance and the adjustment of the municipal features for the transport and handling of goods autonomous at night, when the traffic loads are low and there is no longer a limit of sleeping hours to their drivers. Moreover, looking ahead, drones will form an integral part of the service envelope that the citizen consumers, from gathering and documenting data to the supply of service, goods, and deliveries. The municipality of autonomous tools requires us all to exhaust not only the roads and the physical features close to the ground, since we have all used them full. We are required then to fly higher in the skies, both in vision and in practice. And I mean, look not only the autonomous car, and to look to the drones also.
Thank you, Sharon. Let's get to know our distinguished guests here. A couple of words about yourself and your company organization. We'll go ladies first, of course. Mirav, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mirav Davidovitz, and I represent Elbit company. I'm the C4I application and AI senior director in Elbit. And I also responsible for our activities in the United Kingdom. I retired from the military, from the Air Force actually, a few years ago. I'm a Colonel Reserved. I served both in the IAF and also in the DLD Directorate, and for many years I was in the missile defense area. That's it.
All right, thank you for coming. Michael.
Michael Armon. I am the president of AUVSI Israel, which is an autonomous vehicle platform. I'm also the chairman of Autonomous Vehicle Association in the Association of Engineers in Israel. Our main task is to bridge the gap between what's needed in the industry as far as human, as far as professional engineers, to what the academy is usually producing, which is not enough for the industry. So we're bridging the gap by providing courses, seminar, webinar. On top of this, we are also helping startups in this arena, in the autonomous vehicle, both with the support of Mafat. We take the startups and trying to help them break the glass ceiling if they're getting stuck. So we have a lot of experts in the Association of Engineers, and these experts are helping them to do it.
Great, thank you. To the other side. Didi?
Didi Ben Yoash. I'm heading the team for development of the future combat vehicle, as well as the future technologies for a maneuvering force. I have to say I feel a bit uncomfortable here, since talking about autonomous system at the urban sphere, usually you talk about a cab that will come without a driver and takes you somewhere, and I'm talking to bring the war inside that environment is a bit awkward, but...
I will try to explain a little bit about the connections.
Yeah, we'll find some
Same
common
here,
ground.
same
Don't
here.
worry about it.
Thank you.
Danny Atzmon.
Hi, thank you, Yaakov. I'm Danny Atzmon. I'm the CEO and founder of Cognata. We are making simulation and validation solutions to autonomous driving. Simulating is for training and tell the vehicles how to drive. And validating is to see that they're actually doing it.
You're the guy responsible for not straying out of the lane.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
Both like helping them understand that. Prior to that, I ran a driver assistance unit of Harman. It's a big tier one. When I developed the actual system that drives the vehicle, so I'm coming from the field.
Yeah, kind of technologies. You ask yourself, how do they do that? How do they do that? Guy.
Good afternoon. My name is Guy Elad. I'm from Tel Aviv Municipality. I'm the Deputy CIO. Previous to my position, I was a Lieutenant Colonel in the IDF for 25 years, and I'm happy to be here.
Good. You answer the questions of what to do with all these cars, right? And last but not least, Gabi.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Gabi Kaminsky. I'm Managing Director of CityZone. CityZone is a joint venture between the Tel Aviv-Yafo Municipality, the Tel Aviv University, and Atidim Park, where we advance technologies, urban technologies and smart city technologies with a living lab, a beta site to test technologies in a real-life city environment at Atidim, as well as an open innovation program where we have 23 startups currently running pilots and POCs with the city in different areas, from mobility and transportation through the environment and energy, to safety, cybersecurity, connectivity, anything the local government actually is interested in.
Is it working, this thing, the autonomous thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right. You know what? Let's start with, you know, we all like cars and, you know, Tesla and autonomous driving and all of this. It captures the imagination. So let's fantasize a little bit and tell us about how this thing is going to look whenever it's going to be implemented in the future. Give us the fantasy.
Usually, if you're talking about autonomous vehicle, you have in your mind an image of a car, Mobileye and so on, but it's not there. Autonomous vehicles are in the air, on the ground, at sea also. So if you're talking about the environment, let's say the environment of the future, you're going to see autonomous carrying everything. Okay? You're not going to see the streets are going to be changing. You're not going to see any parking in the streets. You're not going to see anything related to cars except for something that is moving, taking product. And we are also product, taking product from one place to the other place without stopping, okay, unless you want to drop it somewhere. It's going to be moving all the time. All the cars that we know, it's going to be like what we envision in the past between horse and carriage and a car, okay? We are going through the same evolution right now. We see drones carrying packages already over Tel Aviv. There's going to be a big experiment later on in December. You saw it in Hadera. We are at the front end of these experiments in Israel. So you see packages already over Tel Aviv, which is...
Where do you drop a package inside a city like Tel Aviv? Well,
okay, city is going to have to change. Everything is going to have to change. You're going to have platforms on the roofs. Okay, you're going to drop it over there. You're going to have like post stations that you're going to drop the packages and somebody's going to pick them up. Everything's going to change. The environment is going to be cleaner, it's going to be safer, it's going to be less noisier. The economy of scale is going to dictate that you're going to pay less for the delivery. So if you want to pay less for the delivery, you don't need the drivers. So everything is going to change. Of course, people are going to be unemployed, but this is something that we're going to talk about later. So, but the environment as we know it today is changing, okay? It's not going to change. It's changing. It's already there. So we have to realize that this is it and adapt to it.
Mirav, give us your idea of what's going to happen.
So I would like to actually present the defense point of view. Because like I said to Daddy, that there is a connection between the civilian area and the defense area. We would like to take ID from the civilian area and to implement it into the defense area. For example, you mentioned the package. We have the logistic support issue we have like a maintenance or logistics center, but the troops on the ground is far away. So we would like to send them supply. We would like also to evacuate a soldier that's on the battlefield and you need to evacuate them. We want to do it in an autonomous way so we can keep away the soldier from the danger. So we would like to take ideas from the civilian world and to implement it into defense world.
And maybe the other way around also.
Exactly, exactly. And the other way around. For example, we have the UTM. UTM is unmanned aircraft system traffic. Of course, we all know, I came from the Air Force. We have the air control because we have many aircrafts on the air, but soon we will have many drones on the air. So we need like UTM to control all those traffics that we have on the air. So there is a interface between the two worlds, and we'd like to take the advantage of each world and to implement it in the other world.
Danny.
Yeah, my angle is the testing angle. I think currently we're seeing like very nice proof of concepts, usually in the Silicon Valley, but it will take time until we'll see a kind of a robotaxi going around in your town. And the key together is tests and tests and tests and tests and validation. I think that what we're going to see, and it's kind of connect with both Michael and Mirav, we're going to see other applications coming now. Agriculture, defense, off-road, small shuttles, auto deliveries of drones or like small package deliveries. I think this is how we're going to, how I imagine like, you know, the next 5 years. I think in a decade, you can start thinking of seeing something like a robotaxi in the streets of Tel Aviv, but there will be some infrastructure changes beforehand.
We'll ask Tel Aviv in a second, but robotaxi operated by whom?
It's a good question. There's like several runner-ups.
There's no Uber in Tel Aviv yet.
Yeah.
It's a different issue.
I think it's going to be a technology provider. Like the first one who like Mobileye, Waymo, Argo, one of these guys that kind of figure out how to commercialize the technology. The next stage of like buying a fleet shouldn't be like too expensive and how to operate for them. So I think it would come from the tech giants and not from like the operational based companies.
All right. Didi, in your field, the pressure is to minimize loss of life. And that should put a lot of effort in autonomous technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As Mirav mentioned earlier, probably the first area that we'll see autonomous vehicle in combat is on a mission like evacuation of casualties and supplying and supplies. However, I am on charge of looking one level up, as you mentioned, Jacob, about the basically saving life by using more autonomous vehicles and other means in the battlefield. Unfortunately, that's very complicated. Since in the future, I'm sure that we'll see a taxi coming in Tel Aviv, and that taxi, single vehicle, will have a lot of issues to deal with during its way to the customer and then to the destination. In the battlefield, Clausewitz said more than 200 years ago that the war is the kingdom of uncertainty. And these uncertainties, unfortunately, are not going to disappear. And we are not talking only about a single vehicle dilemmas. We are talking about making decision at a company level, unit level, and that decision probably for the coming future, autonomous system will be able to maybe help us, to assist us in taking this decision, but fully taking decision of maneuvering land-based system still away. That's why we are working on the next stage. To our opinion, most common all over the world in the armies, it's manned-unmanned maneuver, meaning we still have to have manned vehicles within the unmanned unit, and it will be a mixed unit of manned-unmanned, and we believe that, of course, as a vision to have fully autonomous land maneuver is a nice vision. It will take years to come. A connection with the, as Merav mentioned, connection with the civilian market is, of course, there, since the building blocks of autonomous vehicle are the same building blocks in combat vehicle as well as the civilian market, so we are working all together on this solution.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk later about cooperation between military and private sector. Guy, looks like everybody is thinking that autonomous taxis are coming to Tel Aviv. Are they coming to Tel Aviv? Is it so easy?
No, in order to anticipate the future challenges, we plan the infrastructure that will support and enable that operation of the vehicles. We're looking forward for the smart mobility and micro-mobility. We're trying to take the pyramid and turn it up, and to give to the pedestrian the ability to be the majority. We increase our knowledge. We do a benchmark with the other cities in the Netherlands and Singapore. We established Citizen, which is our beta site for smart city challenges, and Gabi will talk about it. And we enable connectivity. We insert physical infrastructure. For example, we have more than 300 kilometers of fiber, our privacy network. We implement now LoRa, which is an IoT radio network for sensors, together or aside with the NB-IoT, which is the cellular network for IoTs. And the 5G will complete it, and I think the 3 layers will be enabling the entrance of the taxi that you spoke about.
Yeah. Well, until that happens, just please do something about the scooters and bicycles, because you can't move around Tel Aviv. Smart city, not smart city. To you, Gabi, when do you think that might be feasible to see taxis in Tel Aviv, autonomous taxis?
So it's a good question, and I do believe, and I relate to a lot of what Michael just said about how the future is going to change all the time, but I do think it's going to be a very gradual change, so we might not even notice when we currently face a new reality. It's not just going to be one day that suddenly everything changes. Certain things I completely agree with, other things I don't think the change is going to come so quickly. Specifically, Guy mentioned pedestrians, for example. So this is a huge headache. It's not that we're going to get rid of traffic lights because the cars communicate with themselves. People still need to know when to cross the street. I mean, I teach my kids to make eye contact with the driver before going down to the street. What happens when there's no driver? How do they know the environment is still safe for them? And all these things we should really give a lot of attention to. It's not just about the vehicle itself and how it can become autonomous. It's also about how it behaves within a context, and that context is a city. So this is something that should not be neglected. The point of view of the pedestrians and how other road users actually interact with the autonomous vehicles. So it's going to take time.
Which brings me to the infrastructure. I mean, there are all kinds of cities around the world, and autonomous cars, it's fine, or even drones, but what do you do in Rome or Paris or, I don't know, Mexico City? It's not like Tel Aviv. Everything is different. So how do you go in designing this at all?
Yeah, so for that, you need to do it all ahead of time. Like testing on the actual city with a device that has never been tested outside, it's life-risking. It's not the way to go. So the way to do it is to virtually test all the possible use cases that might happen in that specific location. And I can talk about my company. We provide exactly that. You can take the map of Tel Aviv, upload it to our system, see all the things comes to life, all the traffic, maybe not all the scooter bikers, but most of them, and then try to understand what would happen if I have 10% of autonomous vehicles, 100% of autonomous vehicles. What would be the infrastructure implication on the city? Do I need to change anything? Will like a single autonomous vehicle would make it correctly? Is it too safe or okay to do it? So this is exactly what we are doing in my company.
Let me ask you, Michael, when somebody design the future car, future drone, whatever, they should go cyber first now because of these threats?
It's not cyber first, but cyber is there. I mean, everything is connected. We're calling it connected vehicle, V2V, V2X. V2X, the meaning of it is everything is connecting to everything. So you have to build security, but security is not going to be only on the environment. Security is going to be on the traffic light because it's a component. So you have the first round, the component itself, then you're going the second layer and then the third layer, so you have to protect everything. It's not going to be 100% safe because penetration is going to happen. Okay, even in Tesla, they said, okay, nobody can penetrate Tesla, but somebody penetrate it and stop the brake and almost cause an accident. So it will happen. Like any cyber security that we talked about all day, cyber security should be there, protection should be evolved, okay, as the need of the vehicle is going to increase, and you're going to handle it. You're going to have to protect it the same way, like hospitals, like electric facility, and so on. So everything has to be, but you have to realize that it's going to be everywhere, okay? Everything is going to move. Okay, and everything is going to have, to everything you're going to have a digital twin. Simulation is going to solve part of it, but you have to simulate also cyber. What will happen if something is going to happen, and then you have to address it. And this is going to be a scenario that we're going to live in. I mean, everything that we know until today is going to be obsolete, that's for sure. And I'm old enough to know that everything that I knew before is obsolete. So we have to realize it's different future, unknown future. An unknown future, we have to simulate it and see how it's going to act.
Right, and public entities are not crazy, Guy, about unknown future. And so you have the risk of moving vehicles of any kind. That's one risk. And you have the cyber risk also. And, you know, big municipalities, they don't like risks, right? So how are you going to weigh this?
Actually, most of the research in this area is done in CityZone. We try to think how to produce urban air transport infrastructure that you talked about, and where to put drone landing facilities in the public area. It's a new thing, and the public area will change, and not a bit. We're looking about the safety issues, and the security, the cybersecurity issues also. They're taking care together with all the partners that involved, and there's a lot of partners here. Actually, we're running a couple of pilots right at the moment. One is regarding logistic uses, and it's going on the shoreline of Tel Aviv. It's running by Netivei Ayalon company, and the other pilot and much more partners, okay. And the other pilot is about the security uses with the municipality police unit. We trained our employees to use the drones. And we have another pilot with the ITC, with the Gabi. It's an AI system to create a transport flow at intersections. Maybe Gabi will speak about it.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so to your question about the balance between cybersecurity and trying to advance new technologies, I'm at the happy place because we're kind of a secluded place, a beta site where things are tested, everybody's a little bit more lenient and understand that this is a very preliminary technology and they should be focusing on the core business and developing a technology, but we help them understand throughout the year or so that they're operating as part of Citizone that there are certain pillars or topics that they have to keep in mind if they eventually would like to work with local governments. Cybersecurity is one of them. We will not introduce you to the next step of the POC if you do not meet certain standards to be examined by Guy's team. Another aspect is privacy, and we've heard in the previous panel the importance of privacy considerations in a liberal democracy. So we do not want to go to dark places in that sense, so you have to comply with privacy regulation if you'd like to go to the next step. And other two factors that are not less important are accessibility. Everybody should be able to use and enjoy these kind of new technologies, even people with disabilities or the elderly and everybody. It's not just for people who can ride scooters. And the environment. We will not move forward with you if you are harmful to the environment. So you should be very conscious about that as well. So all these things are things that happen during the program. It's not necessarily day one, of course. Day one, they should be very focused on what they're doing and building their technology.
All right. So, Didi, back to you. Please elaborate a little more about the cooperation between the kind of military development and the private sector.
We rely a lot on development that is done by private industry. Not only autonomous vehicle, but autonomous technologies generally speaking. The first phase of our program was to prove that a two-man crew can do what four-man crew does today. That's in order first to be able to reduce dramatically the physical size of the vehicle, protecting just two and not four-man crew. And secondly, see how these two-man crew can adjust and adopt autonomous technologies together at the same vehicle. So we replaced two-man crew by virtual or autonomous crew members, and the results were surprising. First, we proved the concept. All three companies that were involved, that was Elbit, IAI, and Rafael, all three companies proved that concept, that the two-man crew can do the operation, can perform as four-man crew. But moreover, all three companies proved, and the crew members, by the way, were military crew members, soldiers from armor, infantry, and other corps as well. So not only did they operated the vehicle, they proved that they can do much more than just operating the vehicle by setting up the condition, meaning they have all the information in front of them on a touch screen, on touch screens, 360-degree situational awareness, and that enable us to move to the second phase of the program with man-unmanned, where we are pretty sure that a manned vehicle with a two-man crew can basically operate also several unmanned air and ground vehicle around it. All of that is based on technologies right now, on technologies that are developed by the civilian areas for autonomous vehicle, air and ground autonomous vehicle, and the connection between the Ministry of Defense and especially DDR&D, MAFAT, with the civilian industry is really on a day-to-day basis, and we rely on all these technologies in order to move forward, and I'm sure that Merav will be able to elaborate.
Yeah, let me ask Merav, as opposed to the private sector or the civilian sector, you don't need much regulation when it comes to military, you know, you need an order. We want this, we want to do this, right? So theoretically, you can progress much faster.
I think it's true, very true, because I think that the military is willing to take more risks than the civilian authority. I think that we have other challenges, of course, but indeed the R&D in this area is very progressive. And I can share with you that, for example, in the UK, we have a running program of a robotic vehicle that can either perform a walk to or follow me. I himself was there letting the robot follow me with no fear. I was sure that it was safe enough. So indeed, the regulation is very released in this area. But of course, we have other challenges because I will take, for example, the situation is very dynamic. And the terrain is very dynamic because in the city we have the streets and we have the maps, and it's not changing on a daily basis. The situation in a combat field can change even in hours. For example, if there is a heavy rain, so there is a lot of mud, and the traceability is changing. So we need to read the area online. And we cannot based on map or something like that. So the challenges is very different. But like you said, since the military is willing to take much more risk, we have a lot of progress with that.
Right. More on another point, Didi, you know, it's very easy to get addicted to technology, robots, sit in a nice air-conditioned room and move the troops and move the vehicles and see it on the screen. What about real fighting? Will they forget about that?
Well, that's an excellent question. And I have to emphasize that we are not talking about, at least the team that I am leading, we are not talking about sitting back and maneuver with other vehicles or giving order to vehicles that are somewhere there fighting on behalf of us, or instead of us. We are talking about, and we're pretty sure that that's the right solution, we are talking about commanding the unmanned vehicle from front area, being there. The manned vehicle will be there. The manned vehicle will fight. Unfortunately, for many years to come, we'll have to have humans together and not back there, together with the unmanned vehicle, in order to make decisions that the autonomous system cannot make today. As a very simple example, let's say that the autonomous ground vehicle will come to endless ditch. So it's looking there, and it's a ditch. So, and it's known that it cannot pass that ditch. So the manned vehicle will be there to take the decision what to do. Although the autonomous system, an AI system that study situation like that, will recommend what to do. But still we need the man up front there to fight. And probably the role of the crew member inside the vehicle will be totally different than the role that is today. Today, you aim your gun, you shoot, somebody is loading the gun. That will be not the situation in the future. Mm-hmm. Everything will be automated. But
and talking about Air Force, we've been talking about pilotless airplanes for a long time, and it looks like we're going there more and more.
Yeah, if I may add something
Sure.
to what Didi said, the autonomous tools are supporting tools. They are not come to replace all the men or the soldiers on the battlefield. We would like to give them better tool, advanced tool. For example, if we can have drones in the air that with many kinds of sensor, and we can transmit the pictures from the air to the soldiers on the ground, then of course we improve their situation awareness. This is how we call it, and they can perform better. But we are not exchanging the soldiers on the ground. This is one example. So we would like to improve their performance, but we cannot right now, we don't even think to replace them. And of course, I don't remember who said that, but when we are talking about autonomous tools, it's not only on the ground, it's not only on the air. We also talk about a multi-domain autonomous tool. So we have a drone and a robot on the ground, and they perform together, they transmit data, and they can perform together. And of course, what we are talking about, unmanned airplane, it's a vision. We are not there. We are talking about more like drones or UAV, but not
a fighter jet.
No,
not fighter jets,
we are not there.
Okay. Michael, let's talk a little bit about the human side here. What kind of professions will disappear? What will be created?
If you go and ask a taxi driver whether his job is going to be obsolete, he's going to tell you no, it's going to take some time, it's in the future. It's happening, okay? So everything that is driven a machine today is going to disappear, okay? Robots or robots-like are going to take all the jobs that we know today. We are predicting about 20 to 30% of the workforce today is going to disappear. They're going to have to take other kind of jobs if they can. If
Maybe
not,
they can move to delivery. No.
If they can,
No,
yes.
they
If
can,
they're
you're going to deliver with drones.
Right. If they can, they will. If they can't, it's going to be a big problem. We're going to face with unemployment that we've never seen before. Not even in the Industrial Revolution we saw something like this. So all these people have to be somehow financed for the bridge, and the rest of them have to go into a market that's going to open. The markets are going to be sensor markets. You know, in each autonomous vehicle you have close to 60 sensors, okay, that's all around it. So sensor market is going to increase, component market is going to increase, leisure, okay, is going to be an increase, okay, a lot of entertainment, what you do when you are in the car, so entertainment, communication, social studies, you know, like psychologists and so on. You have to support the people that are unemployed. You have to give them something. Government is going to pay them salary, but what to do, you know, that's a pretty big problem. Even if you pay somebody a salary and he's sitting at home, you have to compensate his ego or whatever in order to do something, so you have to give him something to do. So it's kind of jobs that we are not aware of, okay? That's gonna be there. As far as the autonomous vehicle, I would take it from what Didi said. I don't totally agree with him because UAVs are independent. okay, what you said. UAVs are totally independent. They can take off and they can land without human interference. If before we had somebody that, flying them or from the ground or landing them, it's not there anymore. Everything is independent. You can do it also for jet. So pilots are going to be without a job. Doctors that are doing surgeries, okay, maybe are going to be out of the job. So it's something that in a magnitude that we were not aware of. Education system is going to have to compensate and give us the education and the training that we need in order to face this kind of future. So
Right.
this is my take on this one, but education have to support it. And not the education that we are familiar with today, not the universities that we know today, different training mechanism, different way to teach, from kindergarten to high school to the universities. University is going to be part of it obsolete. So.
And also, Danny, it's not going to be 100% autonomous. I mean, people will still supervise. They will need to acquire new education and new qualities in order to do that.
Exactly. I think it's not going to be a binary change. We're talking about gradual change. And like judging industrial revolution, or now it's like kind of robotics revolution, we will be facing new type of professions and expertise that will be, as of a demand, and people will adapt. So I don't think that the future is gloomy. Looking in the past, it's just like we are like getting more food, we are more polluting the earth, but still we're getting like people are more healthy and live longer, and the level of unemployment in the world is like getting lower if you look from like the first century to the 21st. So I think I'm seeing like a lot of good stuff coming from robotics revolution.
So, a question of safety, Gabi. Are we going to be safer on the roads eventually?
Yeah, so that's
after you get rid of the scooters.
Yeah, of course. Actually, we are looking at a future of aspiring to the 3 zeros, right? Zero congestion, zero pollution, and zero accidents. And the trends in the automotive industry support that, with the connected vehicle, the shared vehicle, the electrification of vehicles, and the autonomous vehicle. Eventually, the convergence of these technologies will contribute to the 3 zeros we aspire to. And this is exactly what we at CityZone are actually looking for, because our concern, as I mentioned at the beginning, is not the vehicle itself. There are automotive manufacturers that take care of that. We have to provide a better context for this car to drive, or the drone to actually fly in. And we are concerned with how to support the introduction of these technologies in order to create a much safer future. So how do we introduce V2X infrastructure, and where do we put it? How do we connect traffic lights to vehicles? What are the data exchange policies between them? So all these aspects, as well as what I mentioned about pedestrians and how they behave and how they interact with the autonomous vehicles. So we actually have several projects currently running at CityZone, starting with a few autonomous platforms, companies like SoftRide, which is now focusing more on agriculture, but they have an autonomous vehicle. And also Seamless Vision, which is actually focusing on the curbside, not the road itself, because you have tasks that you need to go on the sidewalk for cleaning, for surveillance, for deliveries. So these are the platforms themselves, but on top of that, we do have a lot of projects around infrastructure in the city. So roadside units like RoadSense, which is based on radars, and AD-Night, which is based on communication, to provide safer roads. ITC that Guy mentioned, which is about traffic management, so autonomously operating the traffic lights for smoother traffic, or prioritization of pedestrians and public transportation, whatever the city decides to do with it. And everything actually interacts with each other. So that would definitely contribute to a much, much safer, safer future. And add to that more infrastructure to support all these vehicles. So Power Mobility is a good example. It's a company that we have that's providing wireless charging of micromobility today. So for these scooters, to have them parked actually in a much nicer way to not block the sidewalk and provide them with energy in between rides. But in the future, these scooters are going to be autonomous themselves. I'm going to get off the scooter at the doorstep, and the scooter would go directly to the next ride and maybe charge in the middle of the way. And
as long as it doesn't go inside my car, everything is okay.
And those delivery robots will need to charge as well, or the drones. And actually, the drone operating on the coastline of Tel Aviv is also one of our projects with the landing platforms that are about to be autonomous as well. So everything eventually converges into a much, much safer future, so we can be relaxed about that.
That's optimistic. Danny, are we 100% sure that it's going to be safer to drive or to ride an autonomous vehicle rather than what's happening today?
There will be like quantitative ways of telling that. We are working with several regulators today to define what is the operation domain that autonomous vehicle can be released to the market. Currently, the only number that the industry holds is you need to drive 18 billion kilometers to validate. Now, it's crazy, but it tells you how good is human being. Like, that tells you when a machine knows how to detect a red light as a human being, you need to drive those much of cases. So,
yeah, but the problem is that human being detects red light and pushes the gas.
That's a smart human being.
Right. You say so.
No, but we are like in the midst of like developing those tools of ensuring that you will be able to understand before you put any vehicle on the road what is the score of it, how safe it is. Like today you have, for example, NCAP tests. So most of your vehicles that you would like to drive has 5 stars. And it goes to the very basic functions of having airbags and maybe autonomous braking. You'll have the same thing for autonomous driving. And then it's either the regulator or the operator. As Michael said, I don't think that a person would like to own a vehicle. You would like, to ask for it and take it around, would be able to determine how safe it is, and there was going to be a huge market for insurance for that, for sure.
Interesting. Michael, every time a Tesla has an accident, it's a big deal, big story, but if you, look at statistics, it's actually safer for autonomous vehicles rather than regular drivers?
The commitment from Mobileye is 0% accident, which means no accidents at all, and this is where they're going. We are talking about, I think, 5% or 7% accident with human beings. So it's going to be safer. It's going to be managed by AI. I mean, all these, the traffic that we are talking about is going to be managed by AI, and the AI is going to oversee that we're not going to have any problem. I think the main problem is not accidents, the main problem is ethics. What the AI is going to do, because we cannot control it, okay? Once it's going to go there, and it's going to be swarms of,
Well, the classic
vehicles.
question is, what will the AI do when you have the chance to hit one person as opposed to 2 people?
That's ethics. That's ethics. So I think this is going to be the big problem, the biggest problem, not navigating the vehicles. This is solved. Everything that is technically predictable, we can solve. Everything that is predictable, that's a big issue, and that's the problem of how to dictate to the AI, because AI is going to grow. It's going to analyze itself, it's going to learn from itself, and it's going to control everything. So how do we make sure that the ethics is going to be there? That's a big problem.
But these are heavy questions, Guy. How are you going to decide? What would be the process at all? Are you equipped to deal with this kind of ethics and heavyweight questions?
Regarding to the scooters are a problem, but they are part of the solution in the few years, because all the city is under construction.
Yeah.
Because of the metro, so it's part of the solution.
It's nice that we're talking technology and years and whatnot, but the problem is the scooters.
I think we will have a couple of challenges. The first one is the relationship between the operator and the regulator. It's a critical issue, I think, And the second one is the ability to insert or to increase the AI to improve the efficiency of all these tools. We put the residents in the middle. And we
Why, are they going to vote, decide? What are they going to do? How, I'm trying to understand. What do you have in mind in terms of the process?
We have a lot of public participation.
Yeah.
Maybe we will do it also around this issue. But I think these two kind of challenges, the operator and the regulator and the AI, those are the big challenges that will take us or not take us to the next level.
Gabi, do you have any timeline in your head as to where are we going to see any of this, either cars or drone shipments or whatever? Yeah, he says next year.
So, of course, this depends on the regulators that are actually controlling the timeline.
Have you heard this? Regulators.
Yeah.
Next year?
In Tel Aviv, they're passing with the regulator. The regulation is not there yet, but they're already testing it.
So
I believe that it's going to go and force the regulator to put some regulation after the effect, okay? Which means we are testing it already. They're going to read the testing and they're going to do the regulation according to the testing, which was not done before. Before you had the regulation and then you had the testing to the regulation. Now we're going to jump. And I think this is a new thing.
In some cases, not only Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv, they have Naama project, which is great. I mean, it's not done in the world.
Yeah.
Tel Aviv, I think, is in the front end, frontier. They're doing something that haven't been done before.
Yeah, and that's a great example, actually, because Naama, which is the drone initiative on the national scale, is focusing mostly on releasing and relieving a little bit the regulation towards the future of autonomous beyond line of sight drone flights in urban areas. But they're focused on mostly safety considerations, which is what their job is. And actually, as a local government, we need to focus on other aspects as well. For example, how many drones do we want to allow to be at the air at the same time in the same area when we consider the noise that they're might be creating? What altitude do we allow them to operate? How many at the same time? At what time of day? Maybe we restrict it at night or not. What happens to privacy considerations when these drones go over private rooftops or the public domain where we should be protecting our privacy? What happens to the birds and the bats and the bees in the city when multiple drones start flying around? These things are currently not tested within the national scope, and we are kind of stepping into this vacuum and bringing all different stakeholders within the local government, the municipality of Tel Aviv, to start riding on these pilot tests and try to analyze different aspects that might be regulated by the local authority and not by national ones.
We're doing something that is not done, not in Europe and not in the United States. We're doing something that's like in the army, okay, solving the problem on the move. Okay, and I think this is the
Israeli way, isn't it?
It's a startup nation, right?
Well,
and
not always.
Doing it.
Not always.
Most of the time.
Until the first fatality, this is how it goes. Like, they can let you go stealth, don't tell anybody, don't do. But
we know where it came from. But I ask you for a timeline.
Yeah, so again, it's very difficult to say because it's, again, about the regulator more than about the technology. The technology is going there, again, gradually, and it's going to take its time. But currently, I do believe that the regulator is blocking the technology more than the other way around. And in certain cases, we create our own regulation, just like the example that I gave now with the drones. So in that sense, we're not just sitting and waiting. Of course, we're running our experimentations. And for example, at CityZone, we are now building an area which is aimed at being supportive of these kind of autonomous initiatives with all kinds of sensors plus V2X communication standards. So other vendors and automakers can come and test and showcase their innovation in a real-life urban context. This is exactly what we're about, trying to push forward and promote this future to come sooner rather than later. So I don't like giving predictions, If I knew, how the future is going to look like, I would go buy stocks instead of talking to you. Yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah.
So I do believe it's probably sooner than most people think. We see
Really?
examples from other places in the
That's-
world, other benchmarks we see in China and other places where, again, regulation is a totally different thing, where the government can just say, you do this and everything is done. This is not the case here. So we're looking for a better balance, and this is why things might take slightly longer, but the technology is getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there, absolutely.
Maybe I can tell us when the next.
Yeah, well,
By the way, in Germany, they already. By the way, in Germany, they already have the autonomous taxi riding today. So they already put it in.
Also,
Mobileye,
yeah.
our company, Mobileye, Israeli company.
Also in
Israeli
China,
company.
they have quite an elaborate test
China,
over there.
Singapore, and Dubai. But in Israel, in Tel Aviv, probably next year, right?
The regulation.
Speaking of timelines, Didi, when do you foresee that autonomous vehicles will be evident, or any influence of those in the battlefield?
First, I would like to mention that, like the civilian market, we are leading the world on the concept as well as on the technology for development of autonomous vehicle within the military. Some of it is already done, especially regarding unmanned air vehicles and drones, which is, of course, much easier. Michael mentioned earlier that a vehicle, autonomous vehicle, civilian autonomous vehicle, has about 60 sensors. So let's just imagine military vehicle that has to distinguish between enemy and our forces, between civilian and soldiers, between gun holders and innocent people, how many sensors that should be on a ground vehicle, and that is complicated. So we are moving forward, we are moving fast forward, together with the industries, of course, and I believe that in the coming years, I cannot say exactly when, we'll have autonomous vehicle first, as Merav mentioned earlier, in, so to speak, simple missions, like supplies, and then also in combat.
Right. So, Merav, final word to you.
I believe that, the future is here. When we are talking about military uses, I can share with you that special forces in different kinds of countries are already using those kinds of vehicles for special missions. Again, it's the first steps, but I think that it's very important steps. I think that we need to gain the trust of the war fighters, of the users, of the civilians. I think it's a very big challenge that we have. But I do believe that, again, the future is here.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.